Okay, let's get started. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello, good morning. Did everybody have an enjoyable weekend? Hello. Great to see all of you guys in here today. Hello. You guys do anything fun this past weekend? Oh no, you were sick. I'm sorry to hear that. That's no fun. Yeah, this allergy season for sure too. I don't have allergies, but I can see other people struggling around us. A lot of running around. Good. All right. Well, at least get some stuff done. All right. Yeah, I had a nice weekend, just kind of relaxing. It's beautiful in Pittsburgh. We finally are having a fall. Seems like fall weather will be here. Nice, cool temperatures. The last couple of years, it kind of went from very hot to freezing. So we really didn't have fall. But it looks like we might this year. So, yeah. So we'll see. Who knows? All right. So, how did everybody think of your week 1 projects? Did you enjoy it? Was it a challenge? Fun? Good. A lot of fun. Looks like a lot of you guys did have a lot of fun doing that project, which is great to see. Some people struggled a little bit with some tools in Illustrator. It's all part of the process, but for the most part, you guys did a great job. We saw a really, really strong project. So, well, good. So this kind of gets you started about thinking about how colors, work together, harmonies of different colors, and why you would use specific colors for a desired, effect. And just kind of working in the tools in Illustrator, getting you a little bit more confident in using those tools, and we'll be doing more of that this week as well. Awesome. Anybody have any questions about anything from week 1? Okay. If you are one of those people that did not submit their work yet, please get that in as soon as possible for possible credit. I know some of you guys have things going on, and some of you reached out to me, which was great. So keep that communication line open, and I can be more flexible with you, but make sure you're getting that work in. And the discussion post, if you didn't post your discussion at all for week 1, you can still get the initial points. Obviously nobody's really going to be responding to your post, so you won't gain as much as you could from it, but at least get that initial post in as soon as possible so you can get some points, at least for that. So like the whole idea behind the discussion is to get your initial post in as soon as possible so that you guys can all gain as much as you can from each other's comments and responses from that week, because nobody's really going to go back to the week prior to look at your post, so make sure you're doing that. All right, going forward here, we are going to go over a few things. We'll go over a few things just to kind of be aware of that's going on and in your actual canvas. And we're going to talk about the psychology of color. Obviously, always going over the design principles. And if we have time, we will go over again the 4 relationships: complementary, triadic, analogous, and split. We kind of went over that last week, so we might not really have much time for that anyway. But I'm going to go over your assignment 2 and your assessment 2. Well, I'll do a step-by-step demo for that. Just, again, it's important to get your work in on time. Not only is it important to just get into that habit of turning in your projects on time, because obviously when you go out into the working world, if you don't complete a project on time, it could cost you your job. But also in school, when you're, especially in design, you're kind of building upon certain projects. So you really want to have that time to process the feedback given to you, and kind of apply it going forward. plus the fact that you don't want to be rushing through, you know, all of your work just to get stuff submitted at the last minute. All right, so just kind of nix this. I should have changed this. This is from the last time I taught. So our live sessions are actually being held on Monday. This is not the right time. And multi-sessions are, I'm going to even skip this and we can actually look at Canvas here real quick. So I'm not confusing you here. I should have replaced that slide there. So again, for those of you who just need a little refresher, we meet on Mondays at this time. So if you're Mountain Time, it's 9:30. And if you're Eastern Time like me, it's 10:30. And Tuesday is when I do the personal multi-session. And it's not mandatory. It's just if you guys want to pop in for extra help. And that's Tuesday at this same time. Okay. And then also don't forget, you have a mandatory recorded session that you have to watch each week before or after you watch this recording, or if you're in live, obviously, and that will be posted as lecture 2. So last week you were to watch the pre-recorded lecture 1, and then I posted the lecture 2 below this. Week 2 is the same. After we talk today, I will post the link here, so you have to watch if you're not in here live. Also, don't forget, if you go to modules, course media, not only are those same lecture recordings are in here, but also required readings and articles every week. So this is week 1. Your week 2 is here. It takes a little while to load here. So you can see that same video is linked here as well. But then also content within your textbook, required readings are here. So this is actually just all for week 2. Okay. All right. I just wanted to quickly go over that. Announcements, I just posted a quick intro to this week just to let you know what we're going to be covering. So hopefully you read that as well. Usually that's how I talk to you guys too, as a group. So always check in the announcements just in case. All right. So let's talk about the psychology of color, of logo and color and logos, for example. Here's like a little research that I pulled. This was marketing company Web Page FX that came up with this research. They said people make a subconscious judgment about a product in less than 90 seconds of viewing, and a majority of these people base that assessment on color alone. So in fact, this is kind of what they pulled from their study. Almost 85% of consumers cite color as the primary reason why they buy a particular product, and 80% of people believe color increases brand recognition. So that's pretty significant as far as color being a design element that is can be super effective if used appropriately. So, think about things that you buy, out in the, I'm not say a grocery store, or, if you're buying a specific product, think about the color choices that you have and kind of what you go for. And has a big part of why you buy certain brands over others. All right. So we're going to talk about the primary colors today and how they affect, it's kind of like the psychology behind the colors. And I know most of you guys know a lot of this information, but it's kind of interesting to talk about these different areas of how these colors can affect certain parts of our life, like personality and emotions and politics and marketing. And then I have here a little section. I don't know if you guys know what chakra means. That's more of a holistic health I guess, theory of something that you can, it's kind of like yoga, where you're kind of focusing on your nervous system centers to rebalance them. So I kind of wanted to show you red, yellow, and blue and go over some interesting things here. So personality and emotions, when you're using red, it usually evokes strong emotions. It encourages appetite, increases passion and intensity, and the red rose symbolizes love. So there's a lot of reasons why you would use red in certain cases. Politics worldwide represents socialist parties or communists. USA and the United States is used for Republicans. So it's crazy how, like, you know, just colors can represent certain things in different areas, such as politics too. Marketing increases heart rate. So if you're looking for that within your design, that's something you can definitely utilize. Used by restaurants to stimulate appetite. Creates urgency, often seen in clearance. I know I see that little red tag or a little red sale sign and I go straight for that area, save some money there. Used for impulsive shoppers. It's kind of funny because I am an impulsive shopper. So yeah, it definitely sucks me in when I'm out shopping. Chakra, like I said, these are the nervous system centers in your body that you can focus on rebalancing. And root chakra is considered the red area of your nervous system located at the base of the spine. It's related to survival, safety, and physical self. So it's kind of interesting to see how red, you know, kind of has a different effect in these certain areas. Here's some red logos here. Kind of check out some of these well-known established brands that use red within their logo. You can see a lot of beverage, eateries, and, you know, entertainment using red. All right, yellow. Yellow is the next color we're going to take a look at. So in the personality section here, it increases cheerfulness and warmth, causes fatigue and strain on eyes. It makes babies cry. So if you have a yellow room where your baby is, that could be possibly an issue if you have yellow on your walls. Stimulates mental processes, nervous system, and encourages communication. I think it's all about the amount of yellow that you use. In politics, it represents liberalism, if I can say that word. Marketing, it represents optimism and youthfulness. It's used to grab attention of window shoppers, and it shows clarity. In your chakra nervous system area, it's the solar plexus. It's located in the upper abdomen between navel and sternum. It's related to personal power and will and self-esteem. So it's kind of interesting to see the different effects, and not just all positive either, kind of making the babies cry. It's kind of funny to learn the psychology behind that. Here's some yellow logos. Kind of interestingly enough, whenever I was teaching color theory many years ago in Tampa, I found out those little, I don't know if you've ever seen those little yellow pads, notepads with the blue lines going across it. I guess that paper is made to be yellow for a reason, and it's supposed to stimulate your creativity. So those notepads, that's the reason why they are yellow. It's kind of interesting. Your husband loves them. There you go. See? Must be working for him. You still use those too? That's funny. You get those sticky notes too, but you know, those come in all different colors. All right, last color is blue, and the personality emotions associated with this color associate with water and peace. It's most preferred by men. Represents calmness, serenity. This actually curbs the appetite. Kind of interestingly enough, I've heard that if you use a blue light bulb in your fridge, if you swap it out with your regular light bulb to a blue one, you are more likely to lose weight. I think it has something to do with the color that it casts on the food, making it not look appetizing. I don't know. Some people say it works. That's all in theory. It's known as a cold color. It increases productivity. It's used in office settings. Politics worldwide represents conservative parties. In the United States, it's used for Democrats. In marketing, it's often used in corporate business because it is productive and non-invasive, creates a sense of security and trust in a brand. So what kind of company do you think would really benefit by using the color blue? Can you guys think of any type of industry, I should say, if they want to create a sense of security and trust? Law enforcement, good, perfect. Water company, there you go. Banks, perfect. Doctors, yep, good. Yes, exactly. So, and then in chakra, blue is located, the nervous system associated with the blue color is in your throat chakra. It's the base of the throat and it relates to communication, truth, and self-expression. So they always say if you have issues with communication, focus on the throat area with say like a blue crystal, and that should, that's the theory behind that. It should, kind of keep it, kind of unclog that area, I guess, kind of get it going so you don't have issues with communication. Here's some blue logos, some well-established ones here. You see Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, there's Pepsi, Walmart, Ford, Oreo, American Express. These are just a few that were pulled. So, kind of thinking about the psychology of colors, you guys were discussing this last week with the movies the plays that you guys were choosing the swatches for. And I saw a lot of you guys making some great connections with the adjectives that you used to describe the colors that connected to the movie. So, making those connections is important so that you know that you're making the right connection with whatever project that you're working on, the appropriate colors for that project. There are other things to think about too. Color is super important, but also we always want to go back to the principles of graphic design because that's kind of the foundation of what we do. We want to follow the principles because that's what really makes a successful design as well. And one of the things we have to really pay attention to, and especially this week, because you guys are going to be creating a poster for your assessment this week, and there can be some issues with contrast. I noticed in past teaching of this class, there are sometimes some issues with contrast. So you want to make sure that you have enough contrast, especially if you have a logo and type like body copy on a specific color or image. You want to make sure that it's contrasted enough so that you can view it. If you can't view the copy or the logo, it fails to communicate. Nobody's really going to invest the time to really look closer. You want to make sure it's like right there, quick and easy to read and see. So contrast really means if two elements are different, it makes those differences striking. So you could have really strong contrast, just like here in this Mad Men poster, to really kind of gain that visual, like just the striking contrast to get the eye to come in to look at this. Excuse me. Repetition is another big thing that we need to pay attention to, especially if you have multiple pieces, in your design. This really will help carry the flow of information in your eye throughout your pieces. It's basically using repeated elements to direct, organize, and structure and unify the piece. So especially like if it's like a couple brand identities, like a business card you can see here, and then a letterhead and an envelope, you want to make sure you have some sort of repetition, whether it be like right here, probably would be the lines that are kind of, that would be on each piece to show the repetition of that same element throughout the design, not just on the card itself, but also throughout the brand identity. It kind of helps direct, organize, and structure. Excuse me, guys, sorry. Alignment is also one of the big things that I always kind of talk about in your critiques, because I see a lot of issues with this. And it's, you know, the devil is in the details, I always like to say. If you have everything centered, but it's not perfectly centered, say one thing's off, it's going to be like ding, 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 you know, it's going to be, my eye goes right to that mistake. So you want to make sure that you're using your guides and you're really kind of aligning your elements in a way that it's on a grid structure and aligned perfectly in the way that it should be, or else it'll just kind of look haphazard. So you want to have some type of system in place for alignment. Proximity is probably one of the harder things to get as a student. I know this is a tough one that I kind of had to work through and learn. Proximity is clumping together related elements so that their spatial relationships organize and emphasize. And I'll show you this as we go forward with your assessment 2 demonstration of how you can use proximity in your poster to make it more effective. And this is just kind of grouping like items together, so it's easier to view, and it's not all running together. When it runs all together and there's no visual pause in between, it's, you know, harder to follow and not as pleasing to look at. Some things to think about too going forward. Some graphic designer tips and tricks. We all know about fonts. We really want to limit the number of fonts on your page. All right, so I would say no more than 2 different fonts if you're working on a project. What happens is it gets disconnected when you're using way too many different fonts. What a good idea would be is use a font that has a large family within that font. So what I mean by that is, for instance, like Helvetica, Helvetica New has tons and tons of font families underneath that are like bold and condensed. And that way you can use different effects, but using the same font, and it just is more unifying. Text on top of high contrast background is difficult to read. This is something that you guys will definitely be looking at this week for your poster. So just kind of, I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to get past that too, but be mindful of that. Keep it simple, stupid. Simple can be beautiful. This is something too that I had to kind of go throughout my schooling with my undergrad to learn this, because I was always like, oh, more, this is, you know, I need more on this page or this layout. I just feel like I need to cram all this stuff on here. But then as I went forward and realized what was really important and how to make it more visually interesting, you know, I was able to edit out certain things. And looking back at my work a year after I graduated, I could definitely tell, you know, what needed to be done in terms of keeping it more simple. So you guys, you may not get that right away, but you will, you know, throughout your courses here, you should get the feedback to edit out your designs so that it's more effective and simple. Colors, limit your colors, just like with fonts. If there's too many colors in terms of, you know, what you're using in your logo and your text and other elements, it just becomes disconnected. There's no unification. So you really want to make sure you're keeping your colors limited and cohesive. Pick a color scheme. And you guys are going to be working on this for your logos. So you're going to have a color scheme once you do that. High value colors are high contrast, but also easy to class. So high value colors are very high contrast. You have to make sure it works if you're especially using it on a background of an image, for instance. Make your designs unique, distinct and easy recognizable. Think about other brands and what kind of makes them effective that are very established and unique, like Apple and Nike and Volkswagen, simple and recognizable. All of them use very simple designs to communicate their products and messages. All right, let's talk about spot versus process color. We are going to be doing the assignment 2. We are going to be taking your 4-color process I'm sorry, you're going to be choosing a Pantone and you're going to be converting it to a 4-color. So let's talk about spot colors. Do you guys know what PMS means in terms of this? When somebody says PMS color? Okay, so they're talking about Pantone matching system. Okay, and this is kind of like the little book up there is the Pantone matching system book. And if you walked into any type of design agency, ad agency, or in-house design studio, you would probably see a million of these little books. These books are called Pantone matching system books. Yeah, you can buy them. They're very expensive. Sometimes, I mean, obviously, when you get a job, you just borrow what they have there. Yeah, they're like, I think they're over $100 from the last time I checked, which is kind of crazy, but it's like one of those things. Print reps may be able to help you with that too. But these books are, okay, so spot colors, and I'm going to read off of here and then we'll talk about it. So colors created without screen or dots is what spot colors are, such as those found in the PMS system, PMS books are referred to in the industry as spot or solid colors. So you might hear people say spot or solid. From a palette of 18 basic colors, each of the spot colors in the Pantone matching system is mixed according to its own unique ink mixing formula developed by Pantone. So this is not, you know, when you go to a WordPress, they have those plates for 4-color, which is your magenta, cyan, black, cyan, yellow, magenta, and black plates. This is totally different than that. This is a Pantone, the spot colors are different. They're already pre-mixed formulas, so you're not using those plates. So you probably mix yellow and blue paint to get green in your youth. Creating a Pantone spot color is similar in concept, but with the added need for precision. Each color in the system has a unique name or number followed by either a C or a U. The letter suffix refers to the paper stock on which it's printed. So C for coated paper and U for uncoated paper. So it depends on what type of paper that you're printing on. It'll show you what that same color looks on both. Also, created without screens, Pantone metallic and pastels are considered part of the Pantone matching system. So you can actually print metallic and pastel colors using Pantone. You can't do that with CMYK basic 4-color printing. Due to the gamut of the 18 basic colors, some spot colors will be cleaner and brighter than if they were created in the 4-color process described in the next slide. My dog's crying over here, guys. I'm sorry, I might have to pause for a second. Spot colors are commonly used in corporate logos and identity programs and in 1, 2, or 3-color jobs. The benefit of spot colors is anytime it's printed on the press, that color will never ever change. It will be the same exact color. Now that is a benefit. It's a little bit pricey because you are using a special ink, so that's kind of the con to it. But let's say, for instance, if you wanted to make sure a logo looks the same on every single printed piece, you would probably go with a spot color if your client has the budget for it. So that's kind of the idea behind spot colors. They're very consistent, and that's the pro of that. You have process color. So we just talked about spot, and now we're going to talk about process color. It's the most common method of achieving color in printing. It's referred to CMYK or 4-color process. You might hear of it as 4-C, 4-color process, or even just process. To reproduce a color image, a file is separated into 4 different colors. Like I said, they have a plate of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Black is represented by a K so that you don't get confused with the blue, the B for blue. So during separation, screen tints comprised of small dots are applied at different angles to each of the 4 colors. The screened separations are then transferred to 4 different printing plates, one for each color, and run on a printing press with one color over printing the next. The composite image fools the naked eye with the illusion of contiguous tone. So process colors are represented as percentages of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Varying the percentages offer thousands of possibilities, color possibilities. When four-color process printing is used to reproduce photographs, decorative elements such as borders and graphics can be created out of process colors. This helps to avoid the added expense of an extra plate needed to print each spot color. So the pro of this is it's a little cheaper, cost effective. All right, now you're hearing my clock. But if you were to, and when I'm in class, an actual physical class, I like to show students how you can actually visually see the difference between spot and process. And what I usually do is I pass out a magazine, and then I pass out a process color printed piece, like a logo of some sort. And then I give them a loop. A loop is like a magnifying glass. And then they look, because you can't really see it unless you look really super close with like a magnifying glass. And so when you look at the process color image, you're going to see all those little dots printed. You're going to be these dots, almost like a newspaper kind of like look. Then when they look at the spot color example, which would be a logo printed with spot, they won't see any of that. It'll be straight ink. There'll be no dots. It's just, what you see. All right, we are going to be converting spot to process for this week. So let's talk about this. So oftentimes a spot Pantone matching system color is requested when creating a process printed piece. To save money, the spot color should be evaluated to see how it will look if printed in CMYK. So there might be a shift in color. While some colors can be stimulated well, there are many that are outside the possible color gamut for that process and will look quite different. As the quality of the resulting color conversion is very subjective, the designer can make decisions using the Pantone Color Bridge Guide as well as the Pantone Extended Gamut Coded Guide. Most Adobe programs can convert spot to process right within the program. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So this is really what they're talking about here, or on this slide, converting spot to process. So let me give you an example. When I worked for an ad agency in Ohio, one of our clients was First Energy. And First Energy is electric company, and their logo specifically is from, I want to say blue 35 Pantone is what they used. And it's a very specific Pantone color that they use on most of their pieces. However, because of budget and they want to kind of save money on certain things, we did a lot of their bill type work as well. So we did a lot of their ads and other in-house stuff too. But we also did, when you get your energy bill, when you get your electric bill, we did the little bill stuffer inserts. Now those are kind of always being printed. There's a lot of that going out. So they want to save money, and instead of course, because it's just like a bill that you're getting, the logo on that, they wanted to just convert it to process because they didn't want to pay the added expense for a spot for that particular reason. So what you typically do when that happens is you take your PMS book and you look up that color Pantone. So it's Pantone 32 or whatever it was. And there's books that actually will show you what that color will look like if it was converted to process. It'll be right next to it, like a swatch of the regular Pantone, and right next to it will look like the converted swatch. The converted swatch of that particular blue that First Energy used, when you convert it to CMYK, is completely different. It looks really dull, almost like a gray blue. Definitely something that they probably don't want to use. So what I had to do was go ahead and look throughout that book and see if there was a better process color, the process CMYK color that maybe looks brighter and better whenever it's converted. And that's what you do. You kind of need to change the actual CMYK color if that's the case, if it changes. A lot of the blues and the greens changed a lot when you would convert it from spot to process. So that's like kind of an example there. How you do so, and I'm going to share this to you as well when we go forward in our demo here. You can find the Pantone color if you go to follow these steps here in Illustrator. If you go up to Window and you choose Swatches, and then you open your swatch library, it would be under the color books. Pantone Solid is there, and then also Uncoded you'll see there. And I'll show you where to find this when we go forward as well. Any questions about that? And I'm going to show you a little demo, so we'll get into all that good stuff, where to find it and how to convert it. So I think that's one of the bigger challenges of the assignment is the conversion part. Okay, no questions. We'll just go forward here. All right. So before we get into the assignment and the assessment demo, let's go ahead and look at some learning objectives, things that we will be walking away from this week learning in this class. We're going to differentiate between spot, Pantone, RGB, CMYK color models. We're talking about that as well. Identify and apply the correct use of swatches and color libraries. We're going to discuss the role color plays in the Big Four design principles. Analyze how color is used to create consistency in a print campaign, and identify and apply correct resolution for print output. There's also a little short video here, how to find your style and graphic design, you guys could definitely check out. And that's just if you click on week 2 button here, you'll find that there. All right, so I'm gonna go to the discussion. Did anybody get started with that yet? Okay, good. All right. So what we're going to be discussing is color and design principles. You looked at it? Okay. All right. So what you're going to do is just read through here. It's just talking about, you know, the principles of design. Go to the prompt here. So you're going to visit the site and look through all the examples there. Some really cool stuff here. And you're going to choose one poster design from the site that really pulls you in. You're going to take a screenshot of it and embed it into your initial discussion post. And then you're going to describe how color contrast and repetition was or was not used to create impact. What mood was created by the color choices? How would different choices have affected the overall design? So really, really cool. This will kind of get you inspired because you guys are going to be creating a poster for your assessment. So this will kind of get you, you know, some of it obviously is different than what you guys will be doing, but you'll see kind of some really cool things. For your citation, you might use articles that describe the Big Four design principles related to colors or emotions generated from specific color schemes. And then just remember, when you're looking at your fellow students' discussion posts, you might discuss how all 4 design principles were implemented to create a successful design. In addition to contrast and repetition, consider where you see alignment and proximity used as well. What was their impact on the overall success or failure of the design? Think about, you know, things like that. That kind of might get you to start talking about each other's posters that you decided to use. If you were to change the design in any way, what would you change and why? Support your answer with the design principle that it relates to. So you would just click on this little link here and it takes you to some really cool posters. Just scroll down. Think about color, hierarchy, you know, especially color, the overall look and feel, the mood that you get. Just kind of peruse through here and take a screenshot. Do you guys know how to take a screenshot? Okay. If you're on a Mac, it's a Command-Shift-4. There's a Dave Matthews kind of really cool poster here. And then you just embed it. I believe the embedding details are in here. Oh, no, it's not. All right, so when you embed, what you need to do is just add to your files. Now mine looks a little different than yours, but you're gonna click on your files on the left side there, and you're gonna upload that image in your files. And then whenever you go to post your discussion, right when you're ready to post embed your image, you just click on this little landscape icon, and if you hover over it, it'll intuitively tell you what it is, embed image. And then what you do is just go to Canvas, and you're going to look for your files in your images and upload it there. I actually didn't do that, so I'm going to cancel out here. And then once you click OK, it'll embed your image into your discussion. Any questions about that? It's kind of cool. Get to see what's inspired by some posters. All right, so get started on that as soon as possible. And I'm going to get right into your week 2 assessment here. Now, the important thing is to really kind of listen to and read the specifications, because I have a lot of confusion with this with certain students. The idea is we're going to be provided a logo, and this logo, we want to come up with a color scheme for this particular logo that looks good. So you might want to look up other brands that look similar to that are similar to this brand, like kayak brands, for instance. Do a little research, and then you're going to come up with 2 different color schemes for this particular logo. So Aqua Excursions gave you their logo. It's black and white right here. What you're going to do is you're going to create 2 color schemes for them, one utilizing 2 colors and the other one utilizing 3 colors. So here's a really good example here, 3 colors and then 2 colors. Now the reason why there's 2 sets of swatches underneath is because not only are you going to create a logo with 3 color, but you're going to create the first set of swatches will be, the first top swatches will be your Pantone color, and then the bottom second row will be your conversion from Pantone to process color. Okay, so you're going to do 2 variations, a 3 color one and a 2 color. And in those 2 variations, the top row of your swatches will be Pantone colors, and then the bottom will be your process colors. And I'll show you how to convert that. It's really, really easy. Okay, so read through this background. I'll let you guys do that on your own. So you're going to download this black and white logo. So go ahead and click on it and download it on your computer. Open it up in Illustrator. You're going to create an 8.5 by 11 Adobe Illustrator document. So 1 page it should be on, one artboard. Utilize Pantone colors to create 2 different color combinations that are effective solutions for the kayak industry. Create 2 sets of boxes and fill each with your own chosen colors. Duplicate your swatches and convert the colors to CMYK, and I'll show you how to do that. Note if the color change is pronounced or minimal when you do convert it. If it's pronounced, consider choosing a different color. Open the provided logo in Illustrator. Copy and paste the black and white logo into your file, and you're going to apply the CMYK values of each theme to the black and white logo you downloaded. And then you're going to save your file as a PDF, and I'm going to show you all these steps here. That's one part. That's part 1. So don't forget there's a part 2, which is your written rationale. So this is your reflection, and it's basically should be a 150 to 200 word rationale in Word that explains the reasons why you chose the colors in each theme. Then you're going to save your file, this file, as a doc file, and you're going to create a folder named this, so assignment 2, first and last name. You're going to put your document with rationale and PDF of your logos with color themes into this folder, and you're going to zip it for evaluation. Okay, and I'll show you how to do all of this. All right, so let's open up Illustrator. Let's take a look at this. When you download that Aqua Excursion logo, this is what it's going to look like. Let me clean up my area here. Sorry, guys. Just a note, and I think I showed you this before, if you go up to the upper right-hand corner where it says Essentials, you can reset your panels just by clicking that drop-down menu and saying Reset if all of your panels are kind of scattered throughout. Okay, so I just downloaded the AI file. This is what's given to you guys. So you can click individually on this. And what you're going to do is what you might want to do first is do a little research, go online. I would look up maybe kayak logos or water sports. Let me show you what I got here. I just looked up kayak logos. I just did a Google image search, just to get some ideas of what the colors are used here, be inspired by some different colors. The one thing to think about too, we will be applying this, so I'm giving you a heads up. We are going to be applying one of the two logos to your poster for the assessment. So it's going to have to work over top of your image or whatever you're using in your poster. So just kind of be mindful of that. Sometimes I've had students that will go back after submitting your week 2 work and have to adjust your assignment to be able, color-wise, to be able to work for your assessment too. And that's okay, as long as you're making those changes, it's all part of the process. All right, so what you need to do is create a new file altogether in Illustrator. Just go File, New, and do 8.5 by 11. One artboard's fine, RGB color's fine, everything else looks good. And I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to do a Select All, which is Command A, and a Command C to copy. Go right back to my regular page that I just made. I'm going to do Command V, which is a paste. I'm probably going to make this a little bit bigger. So with it selected, I'm going to go ahead and hold down, go over to my Rotate tool, which is showing here first. And I'm going to hold that option down to choose my Scale tool. And Scale is S on my keyboard, just the shortcut. If I double click on top of that icon, it's going to give me a panel that I can resize this, keep it proportionate so I'm not stretching it in any way. So I want to make sure uniform is checked. And this is where I can type in a higher percentage and then I hit preview to see that change. So I'm probably going to do maybe 180, get it bigger here. 180 looks good. Okay. And then I'm going to do an Alt Drag. An Alt Drag will help me make a copy of this. What you might want to do is make sure, if you go up to View, make sure you have Smart Guides selected. Smart Guides is a nice way to intuitively have the actual logo be centered on your layout or centered with other elements. It'll kind of give you that line, that guide to say, hey, this is now centering with this logo. So you're not having to, align it in any other way. Now there is a way that you can align it. You'd have to group these two together first before you do any type of aligning. So you would select this and go up to Object Group. Same thing, Object Group, if you want to do it this way. And then go up to Window and Align. And Shift select both logos to center. And that's how you would center those. Okay, now you have to kind of ungroup it after the fact so that you can select each individual part. All right, so now I'm going to take my little square tool, rectangle tool, and I'm going to make my swatches. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key when I'm clicking and dragging, and it makes a little square here. And these will be your swatches just to kind of put your Pantone and then converted CMYK in. Okay, the first one I'll do is 3 color, and I'm just doing an Alt Drag. Alt Drag, select all, and that make sure that it's aligned there. Now that I have this ready to go, I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag that down here, and I'm just going to eliminate 2 because this should be your 2 color. I know I did that really fast. Does anybody have any questions about that? And then just make sure it's centered, like, the same amount of space above here, your margin space, it's centered. Everything looks good. The swatches are up around this size. I think let me see here, properties. My box is about less than an inch, about 3/4 of an inch. It shouldn't be super big. All right, no questions at all? I don't want to go too fast either. Okay. All right, so this is where, we're gonna come up with a color scheme. Now these should be two different color schemes that you're kind of playing around with. Go ahead and go up to window and choose swatches. And this is how you're gonna show your Pantone colors. So windows, swatches, okay. So you see swatches here. You're gonna click on this little drop down menu here on the upper right hand corner. And you're gonna go to open swatch library. And then you're gonna go to your color books. And let me move this over a little bit because I think I'm cutting this off a little bit. So upper hand corner, open swatch library, color books, and here are all the different color books. Now it's not just Pantone, you have other things going on here. We're just focusing on the Pantone swatch color list here. And the ones that you're gonna be interested in, we're just gonna do Pantone solid coated. And we're just gonna pretend that this is gonna be a coated poster that this logo is gonna be used on. The uncoated just means like that paper will be an uncoated paper versus a coated paper. Different papers are coated with certain things that make it more glossy. Uncoated is more matte looking. And it affects how the ink is on there. So that's important to distinguish and to know. So usually in the beginning of a project, you will discuss this with your client, what kind of paper it's going to be printed on. And then you'll, obviously choose, if you're going to use a Pantone color, you'll choose the coated, if that's the case. Now, when you choose Pantone coated, you'll see this new palette show up here, and it's going to have all of your Pantone coated swatches. So if you hover over your cursor over each color, you'll see the number. And in the book, you guys don't have a book, but if you had a book, I actually don't have a book either, but I've worked with them before. You can actually look up this number specifically in the book and see it as well. Okay, so now let me move this back over here. Now I'm going to decide on a color scheme, my 3-color color scheme. And I'm going to choose the top swatches will be my Pantone. And then my bottom swatches will be the conversion from Pantone to process, the 4-color process. But I'm going to focus first on the Pantone colors. Okay. So I would say don't go, okay, I see this a lot too. So just kind of an FYI here. I see a lot of students that'll do this. Now, what's wrong with that? What's going on there? What do you think's wrong with this color? It's too light, so it's hard to read, right? If it was on, a light printed surface, or applied in a light paper or background, it's not going to show up. So if you're going to use yellow, you want to make sure it has a lot of contrast in it, so that it is. I got all kinds of things popping up here, so that it has enough contrast so it's readable. And I would say, really make sure, especially the words, that you're not using a color that is low contrast, unless you're using it on a darker background, okay? Because you really want to make sure it's readable. Now, the swatch is a little different, that's okay. You can have this be a yellow like this. It's not a word, it's just a mark, it's an abstract mark. So it's okay to have it in that regards. All right, so I'm going to choose this color scheme, which is more, see if I can find it here. And that is, this is Pantone 3282. I'm going to select that one. And when I select that, notice that in your swatches, it should add it to your swatches. So right here, so you can see my swatches over here. I'm going to delete, I'm going to get rid of all the rest of this so it's easier to see here. There we go. Okay. This first one I'm going to delete too because that was that really light yellow. Okay, you guys can see this, right? Let me delete this one too. And delete these. Okay. I'm just cleaning this up so you guys can see a little bit better. But when you select that and you apply it, it applies it directly into your swatch panel, okay? So if you need to say go back and actually change this to this, you know, you can go back to your swatch panel. Okay, so this is actually this is a, I need to change this. This is a 2 color right now. We need to change this to 3. So I'm going to choose another color here, do like a brown, almost like an olive green there. Okay, and then this makes it easy because then you can click on each of these little squares and so, you know, kind of add those colors there. And I'm adding, these are Pantone colors on the top. Now, how do you know it's a Pantone color? Look in your swatch panel. See how these, it says Pantone, but see how there's a little dot next to it? There's an icon with a little circle in there. That's how you know it's a Pantone color. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose a totally, I'm going to leave these go and I'll show you how to convert that in a second. And I'm going to choose another color scheme for this one. And I'm going to go with a totally different one that I think might work. Go with that red and see how it kind of adds it to my swatches there. And I'm going to go with a muddy blue. Let's see, get a little bit more aqua in there. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to change this to that muddy blue. Get rid of any type of swatches that you're not using so you're not confused either. So the red and the blue are kind of what I'm using here. All right, so I'm going to go red, Pantone, blue. Perfect. Okay, let's save this so I don't lose it. DES114 assignment 2, sorry. And we're going to save this as an AI file. I'm just placing this on my desktop. So you can go back and change it if you need to. Okay. Now let's convert these colors to process. It's really, really easy. All you have to do is, let me go ahead and actually apply my Pantone first. I'm just kind of doing what I just did before. Let me zoom in here so you can see. So click on, so you applied all the Pantone just like you did above here. And let's select the first square. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a duplicate of this. So see how it selected that Pantone? We're going to click down and drag it to make a copy and let go. It makes a copy. See, the copy is right here. So all you need to do is double click on this little dot here on that second copy. And you can rename this. Like you can rename it anything you want. You can even specify the actual colors. I'm just going to name this process green just for ease. And right here where it says color type, you're going to change it from spot to process. Global's fine, and you're going to add it to my library. And when you click OK, you'll see, oh, that it adds it to your swatch library. Let me open up swatches. But when you go back to your swatches, look how it changed. That little dot isn't there anymore. The name changed. The dot in the very bottom corner isn't there anymore. And that's how I know that it's a process color and not a spot anymore. Now the change looks pretty good on my screen. I don't see, maybe a little darker, but it looks pretty good. Let's do the yellow. Same thing. Click on that, drag it down, make a copy. Select that copy. Double click on that little dot with the square. We're going to name this process yellow. And we're going to change this to process. And click OK. Color, again, looks pretty similar, not too bad. And you're just going to repeat this. So what I should see in your swatches, I should see all those colors with the dots and then see the conversion. And you can rename those so it'd be easier to even see beyond that. Okay, same thing with this one. So let's go ahead and change this one. Very easy. I think it's pretty easy. Process red. Make sure you change this from spot to process and click OK. Same thing here. One more thing to change. All right. Any questions about that? That's all you have to do. Pretty easy, right? I'm going to save it. Good. All right. So we need to make a PDF of this. Everybody knows how to make a PDF. Go File, Save As. You're going to choose Adobe PDF. You are also going to supply the AI. I need to, if I just open up the PDF, I don't see any of this. It'll be a flat file. So I also need you guys to send not only the PDF, but also the AI file so that I can open this and look in your swatch panel and see that you did it. If the color is off, just make that note in your Word file. So you're going to make, part 2 of this is your reflection post. So you're going to explain the color choices that you used. And then maybe in there, if you do see a big shift in color, you can talk about that and how you would change that if you needed to do so. And that's all part of it. You could say, I'd have to look in the CMYK conversion of that to see the differences. Mine looks pretty good as far as that goes. All right, open up the PDF before you do anything too. Just make sure it looks good. And then don't forget to also supply the AI file. Any questions about that? Don't forget, you're going to do a 150 to 200 word rationale in Word that explains the reasons why you chose the colors that you did. So let's pretend that this is the paper. We're going to do DES114 my rationale. Yes, you can do that in Word. So you're going to save as, when you're done, you're going to save this as DES114 assignment 2. I'm going to save this in my desktop. And I'm going to share my desktop so you guys can see how to zip all this together. Okay. Oops. So you should have your PDF. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll put it up here. You should have your Word file. And you should have your AI file. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're just going to select all. So just drag over top. And you're going to go up to, and you could do this in 2 ways. You could either go up to File and say Compress 3 items. And it's going to create a zipped file. Or you can select all, and I believe on a Mac, you just hit Control, Compress. It's the same thing. And then what you'll do is rename this, the file right here, save your file as, let's see, Yes, assignment 2, first and last name. Just make sure when you do that, don't put any type of spaces in between. So DES114, just go ahead and do assignment 2, no underscore, first and last name. Just because sometimes when you put underscores or spaces to rename a zip file, it gets kind of wonky. And I've had issues with students, I can't open it because of that. So go ahead and just take out all the spaces or any type of underscore, and this is what you should submit. Any questions about that? No, pretty good. Okay. All right, so that's the assessment. I think you guys will, definitely enjoy kind of looking at different color scenarios. Have fun with it. You might want to jump ahead and look at the poster assignment first before you get started, just so that you have an idea of what you will be applying this logo to your assessment too going forward. So let's go ahead and check that out. There we go. All right, let me go. I'm going to switch over to Canvas just to make sure we have all the information consistent here. Okay, so for assessment 2, you guys are going to be creating a campaign poster. Go ahead and read through the objectives and the background information. So using the strongest, most viable color theme for your logo assignment this week, create a poster that will promote the Aqua Excursion Sunset Paddle Adventure. So you will decide which color scheme you want to go with. Maybe this might be decided after you kind of create your poster and then decide on which color is best for that. That's going to be your process. All right, so with that being said, let's get started. I'll show you kind of how some things to think about going forward here. All right, so did anybody, I thought I saw the chat here. Oh, I'm sorry. You're good. Okay, so you're going to do the final color Aqua Excursion logo, choose the strongest color, and then you're going to crop it tightly, make sure it's converted to CMYK. I'll show you that in a second. You're going to use up to 2 images. You don't have to use 2. I'm fine with 1 as well. Here's the images in here. This is all the information that should be on your poster. Obviously, you're not going to have headline or body copy or call to action. Take those off and just use this information. So just copy and paste. You need to do this in InDesign. Now, obviously, you need to change certain things into your logo before you import it into InDesign, and I'll show you that in a second. But you're going to lay out your poster primarily in InDesign. Finish size is 11 by 17. You're going to have a bleed of 1/8 of a bleed all the way around. Your color space should be CMYK. All images converted to CMYK. We'll get into that in a second here. All images placed at correct resolution for print. So 300 pixels per inch at 100%. All spot colors converted to CMYK. Live area applied properly. No important text or elements too close to the trim. Bleeds correctly implemented and document packaged for print. So a lot of information. We have submission requirements too that we need to adhere to, but I'll show you every step of the way. Okay, so let's get started. So I would suggest go back to your logo that we were just looking at here. And I would choose the one that you think is going to be the strongest. I'm going to just choose my 2 color one. Now, the only thing is, before I even do that, actually, no, I'll just do that second. Let me copy this. Just hit copy, and we're going to do File, New, and I'm just going to create a new document for this, completely new. I'm just going to do like an 8 by 8, but I'll change this in a second here. I don't want all those artboards. Hold on. Get rid of these artboards. Okay. So I'm going to paste it just on a new canvas altogether in Illustrator. And I'm going to make this just slightly bigger. Let's go ahead and scale this a little bit bigger. Let's do 160 maybe. It looks pretty good. And I'm just going to make it so it's not, you know, I'm going to be placing this into my InDesign file, so I don't really need this big space here. So I'm going to go up to File, Document Setup, and I'm going to edit artboards. And I can crop it, so I can make it real tight here. That's all I need. So again, if you kind of lost me there, go to File, Document Setup. I did it really quick. Edit artboards, and this is where you can edit your artboard size. And then you just click on your Move tool to kind of apply the changes. Any questions about that? I don't want to go too quick here. No? Okay. Now we have to convert this to CMYK because right now my colors are process, and I know that because I didn't change it yet when I copied and pasted it. See down here, it's showing as a Pantone. So I just need to double click on this. And change it. Same thing with my red. Looks good. Okay. Now I'm going to just save this as Aqua Logo. And I'm going to save it as an AI file just so I can come back to it if I need to change it. Save it and put it in your folder for this project. And then, most important step is you want to export this out as a ping file so that this white box doesn't come with it. You want it to be transparent in the background. So what you're going to do is you're going to export as, File, Export, Export as, and the format should say ping, PNG. Hit Export. And before you click OK, just make sure you have these settings: high resolution, which is 300 pixels per inch. That's fine. Type optimize. What you want to make sure that this is selected, transparent. You can see the little checkers in the background that's showing you transparency. Click OK. And that's all you need to do. Then you're done in Illustrator. So then what you need to do is click and open InDesign. And we're going to do a File, New Document. I'm going to switch over here in a sec so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I went into InDesign and now I did a File, New. And it might show up here, but if it doesn't, make sure your file's 11 by 17 on the right. It's in inches. You don't have to do facing pages. One page is fine. Your bleed, your margins is fine as set as that is all 1/8. So that's all set perfectly. The slug you don't have to worry about. That's just information if you want to add this for the printer. So margins, that's up to you. I just have it set at 3/4. Everything else is good. Okay, I'm gonna lose this. Give me 1 second. Every time I click OK, it kicks me out. All right, so this is my document in InDesign. You can see the red line here is my bleed. So that's where the trim line is right where the white hits the dark gray. So that's where it will be trimmed by the printer. And then the red line is where you would bleed anything that comes close to the trim edge, color-wise, image-wise, so that you don't have a weird white gap when printed if it's shifted on the press. The purple line is your margin. That's just to make sure that you have everything aligned and not too close to the trim. So, you want a really nice balance of white, not white, but margin space around your document. Okay, so now what we have to do, let's go back to your assessment details and click on, what they need you to do is click on Sunset Panel Images. You're going to download this folder, and these are all the images you have to choose from. You can use just one out of those two. You don't have to use at least two. It's completely up to you. I would keep it simple. And let me show you what that's folder what those images look like. So let me click on that folder. When you download it, it should look like this. And here are all the images you have to choose from. So there's the first one, second one, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Okay. Now don't forget, we're going to have to, these are all RGB JPEG images. We're going to have to convert those as well once we have everything in place. And I'll show you how to do that. All right. So we got all the project specs are good. Like I said, we'll get to this soon here. Let's check out our copy. So I'm just going to copy this information. Just highlight it, hit Command C for copy, go back to my InDesign file, take the type tool. I'm just going to draw a box here and just paste it. So Command V. And then I'm just going to take out, you know, the headline and the semicolon, body copy. We don't need that. That's just a signifier for you guys. Okay. I have my copy in there now. So I'm going to pull this to my off my artboard just to kind of have. And then I'm going to decide on the image that I want to use. I already kind of know the image that I want to use. So I'm going to go right into Photoshop. And I'm going to open up the image that I'm going to use in Photoshop before placing it, because you need to do something before you place it into your document, any of the images. I already know that I'm going to use this kind of large too. It's my focal point image. So here I am in Photoshop. I just did a file open, and here's my Kayak Sunset 6 JPEG that I decided to use. Now you need to do this with all of your photos before placing it into InDesign. You need to know the size that you're placing it as. Since the poster is 11 by 17 and I want this to be my focal point image, as long as it's close to 11 by 17, I'm good. So I'm going to go up to, let me share my desktop so you can see my menu bars here. And this is what you need to do to convert your image to work for print. So in Photoshop, with your file open, let's go ahead and save first before we do anything. I'm going to do poster. Save this to the desktop. And I'm going to save this as a Photoshop file first so that, you know, I can come back to it if I need to. Then I'm going to go up to image size. Just check out your size. Mine looks good. It's 300 resolution. That's perfect for print. You don't want any lower than that. If that's lower, you need to adjust that. When you do adjust that, say if it was set at 200 and I typed in 300, you'll notice your width and your height will change. You want to make sure that it's doable for where you're placing it. Now this, I want to use this as 11 by 17, so this is perfect. I could actually go down a little bit too, maybe 12 by 17. That looks pretty good. It's a big file though. You can see my image size is 54.6. It used to be 72. I just downsized a little bit and click OK. Now the one thing, another step that you need to do besides image size is go up to image mode. Now this will tell you what the color mode it's set in. It's RGB. Now this would be okay if I'm using it on screen as a web image, but for print we need to convert it to CMYK. So all you need to do is just choose CMYK. Click OK, and there you go. It's ready to go. Now I'm going to export this out. I'm going to save it first, and then I'm going to export it out because you can't place a PSD file in your InDesign. It just is a really big file. And for purposes of this class, so that you guys don't get all your files are too large, take note. You should always place a TIFF file for a printed piece, not JPEG, TIFF. So typically, if you're printing this, you would do a save as for this image, and you're going to choose TIFF. There's an issue with this, with submitting it to Canvas. This image is very high res. This is like, it would be huge. And I have a lot of students have issues because of space uploading this. So for the moment, I would like you guys to go ahead and just save it as a JPEG, but keep in mind that it should be a TIFF, okay? So kind of take note of that. There's just, I don't want you guys having issues trying to upload it. So if this was a real project for print, you would choose TIFF. And I'll show you the size differences. Let me save it as a TIFF and I'll show you. Let me save it TIFF and then click OK. And then I'm going to save it as a JPEG and I'll show you the size differences here. Okay, that's because JPEG is more, and high quality is fine, leave that as such. JPEG kind of condenses your file, your image, so it's not as good of a quality image when you print it, but it is a smaller file. So let me show you the difference here. All right, so this is the TIFF file, and then this is the JPEG we were just talking about. So TIFF file, if you ever want to see how big your file size is, all you have to do is select it and choose Command-I. And it's going to bring an info box here. So my TIFF file is 76 megabytes, almost 77 megabytes. That's really, really big. And that's okay if you're going to print this, you know, with a printer, that's fine. Typically they have, you know, some type of server that you can send it to. Sometimes they even want a high-res PDF, and it could be this size, and that's fine. But for purposes of you guys not having any issues, like I said, uploading it to Canvas, I'm going to do Command-I. Look at the difference. This is 3 megabytes versus 77 megabytes. Okay, so just kind of take note of that, what you should do, but for purposes of you guys not having any issues uploading, let's go ahead and save out as a JPEG. You can, you know, experiment and do the conversion, that's fine, but I would suggest keeping it as a JPEG. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm back in InDesign, so I'm going to save this file specifically for this project here because I didn't save it yet. Okay. I already kind of had this it's kind of like a cooking show. I kind of already had this figured out how I'm going to apply my grid and my alignment and all that. You might need to kind of sketch some things out beforehand or kind of move some things around, and that's fine. That's all part of the process. All right, I already know my focal point image is going to basically bleed on all 4 sides of my image or my layout. So I'm going to take the rectangle frame tool in InDesign, and I'm going to start right up at my top part of my bleed because I know I want this image to be all the way across my poster. So bleed to bleed to bleed is how I'm setting this up. And I know that this is a rectangle frame box because it has that X there, and that's telling me, hey, this is where you can place your image. All right, now I'm going to hit Command-D, which is File, Place. That's the shortcut key. Or you can go up to File, Place. See how it says, look, Command-D right next to it? That's the shortcut key. And you're going to go find that JPEG, which should be a TIFF. Here's the TIFF. But I'm going to place the JPEG for purposes of memory. And it should place it right in there. Now, if you need to fit it, go up to Object Fitting, fill frame proportionately. It should fit it within this frame that I have. It looks good because it's pretty much the same size as this image anyway, or this layout anyway. Does anybody have any questions? I know I'm kind of going fast. I'm gonna kind of see where you guys are first so I'm not confusing anybody here. Okay, so Andrea, what are you confused before I go forward? All of it, uh-oh. Is there anything in particular you want me to go over again? And so this might be a case where, you know, when you watch it a couple of times, you might start getting it too. So, you know, you might want to kind of wait, and then the recording is posted, you can kind of rewind and go back and listen to this again. It is a lot. It is a lot, but you know what? Once you get it, you'll be good. And if you need extra help, I'm here. You know, I'll be here tomorrow. You can come in. I can help you with anything that you're having issues with, questions or concerns. But I think if you maybe watch this over again, is there anything that you're specifically confused about that I can go over now or not clear of? Okay. All right. Sometimes it takes, you know, take a break, come back at it, re-listen to the lecture recording once it's there, and you'll get it. The idea is we're just setting this poster up so that it's the best it can be for print. So you need to convert it to CMYK from RGB because you're printing it to CMYK plates. Oh yeah. And that's, that's something to get used to, because a lot of times that's what you're doing as a designer. You're going to be flipping back and forth with all the programs. But you'll get used to it once. It's just all part of the practice and knowing which program is used for what. And if you're overwhelmed, just let me know. Like I said, I'll be here tomorrow. I can share screen and help you through it. I'm here to help you guys. So if you succeed, I succeed. I want you guys to like really get this. So if you're having issues, please let me know. All right. Well, I'll go forward, and then, if you have any questions at the end, let me know too. Isn't that a cool image? Okay. Now, keep in mind, there are other images in there that may not work for this space. If you want to do a focal image for this, the other images might be landscape. This is more portrait. The other ones are more wide than tall. So you kind of have to make sure that you're aware of that. Now, you can apply different images to this. I can keep it as simple as this, and that would be fine, just one image. But let's say if you wanted to add a couple more images, I would say keep it consistent. I wouldn't, for instance, do something like this. Steer clear of doing something like this. And I'm just going to go into my images here. Now, why do you think this might not work as well? Too busy. Well, that could be one thing, right? What's wrong with this? Clash. And I've had students do this before. So I just want to kind of make sure you guys are being aware of certain things. Do you think there's any type of grid structure here, any type of alignment? No, it's just kind of, they're floating all, I'm just slapping these images wherever, right? There's no rhyme or reason. So set up a grid structure. If you are going to use 2 images, keep it consistent, okay? It would look better if you kept the same size frame, for instance. So if I wanted this image to be consistent with this image, what I would do is just create a frame that is the same size as this frame. And then I would align it with that one, and I would place that image right inside. Now this image may not work as well as the other image. Depends on what type of image it is, but you might need to move the image inside. I just double clicked inside that image and that red box appears so that I can use my arrows to kind of move this around. You'll see the little hand tool, and adjust it so it works. And then align it so that it makes sense. It's aligned. It's kind of, it's cohesive. It's aligned on a grid. It looks cleaner. It's easier to follow. So you could do something like that. Now, if you do something like this, don't forget you have to convert each of these images. So let me give you an idea of how you would do that. You want to make sure you're converting it to the size that you're making your image. So go up to Window, and this will help you out tremendously. And go to, where is it? Properties. Properties is a nice panel because it tells you a lot of things in your document, like for instance, the size of this box. If I selected this and went to properties, in my width and my height, it's telling me the exact size of this box. So it's about 4.06 inches by almost 3. So 4 by 3. Remember that. Because when you go back to Photoshop, here we go. We're gonna switch over here, right? Let's get rid of this one. We need to convert that one. So let's open up that image. Any image that you use, you need to convert. So let me open up this image. And this is the original image in Photoshop. And I'm gonna go up to image size, and it is 200 pixels per inch. So it's not quite 300. So let's go ahead and change that. 300. Now watch what happens. And I have to uncheck that resample for it to change. You'll see the image, and let me go back and show you again because it didn't actually change. I actually unchecked that. Make sure that's unchecked, the resample. And it's 8 by 6 inches right now, but when I go up to 300, it goes a little smaller, 5 by 4. Now this will work because my image in my InDesign document is what, about 4 by 3. So that's a pretty similar size. If this was like 12 by, 11, that's where we would have an issue. Size-wise, it's just too big. So it's very similar to the size. Just this is something you have to pay attention to. This should always be 300 because that's high res for print. And just make sure that this isn't too small and it's the same size as your, or similar size to your frame box. Click OK. Then what we have to do, what's the next step before we save this? Does anybody know? In Photoshop, we made sure that pixels per inch were good. Now what do we have to do? It's RGB because it's an original image. What do we have to do? Convert it to CMYK. Good. And how do we do that? You remember the steps? You guys are paying attention. Yep, go to image and then what? Image mode and then CMYK. Perfect. You guys are awesome. Just click OK if this swap panel box comes on. Just ignore that. And then you go to Save As. And here, I'll just do image 1. Like I said, I would switch it to TIFF for a printed piece. But because, we don't want issues with size for our Canvas purposes, we're just going to keep it at a JPEG. Just kind of know that, TIFF is the way to go. Quality maximum is fine. And once that's saved and all done, you can close out, go back into InDesign, and you're just going to swap this out. Okay? So there's ways that you can do this. In your links panel, which is under Window, choose links. You'll see that linked image here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and click on this, and I'm going to say relink. And I'm going to find that JPEG that I just saved as image 1. I'm just going to swap it out. There we go. All right. So you'll have to do that for any images that you use. You want to make sure you're converting it from an RGB, but also paying attention to the resolution. Okay. We do have body copy that we have to place in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that before we decide on what we're going to do with this. Let me zoom in here. We all know about hierarchy and all that good stuff, right? So we all know that the logo needs to be put in there before we do anything, right? This is the copy. Let's do the logo. I'm going to put this to the side here. So go ahead and draw your rectangle frame tool and do a Command D, and you're going to find that logo that you saved out. Remember the ping? That ping is very important because that'll bring in your transparent logo, and you go File, Place. If you didn't save it out as a ping, you're going to have a big white box behind here. Now this logo could be much smaller. It doesn't have to be this big. You can even go much smaller than this. So I'm going to change the size of my box, and I'm going to go up to image, fitting, fit content proportionately. It could be even smaller than that. The logo is important, but it doesn't have to be huge. I have a lot of students that think that it has to be the size of the poster width, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. As long as you can see it. I'm going to center this. And, you know, you can place it wherever you think is best. For now, I'm going to place it up here. Any questions about that? So the ping is the most important thing to remember there. Okay. Now I'm going to focus on my information here. And right now I have a headline, body copy, and call out information. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the bottom line. I'm going to put it in its own box. So visit excursion.com for more information, the call out. I'm going to copy that and delete it out of here and create a new copy box for this, just because it's going to be really separate from all of this information. It should be treated a little bit differently because it's a call out. Paste this in here. Just paste it into a new copy box, and we'll kind of throw it down here for now. Don't let me forget about it. Okay, then, so what we want to do is we want to make sure there's hierarchical order. We want to make sure the headline is prominent. The body copy is less prominent because it's secondary. Now we want it to be viewable. Don't forget that this is a poster, and it's not something that you're going to have in your hand reading like a brochure. So a poster on the wall is probably going to be about 5-6 feet away from somebody. You want to make sure that the copy is readable. I wouldn't have it obviously at this size, the body copy, but it has to be smaller than the headline just because that's the order of importance. All right, so let's go ahead and bring up your type character box under window. And we're going to choose a font that you think is appropriate, that unifies well with the brand. Now look at the actual color, or not color, the font of the logo. It's a thicker sans serif typeface. You can probably play around with this. Obviously, you can use a decorative font for a headline, but not so much for body copy. You could keep it simple as a thick headline too. You know, if you wanted to do something very simple, you could do something like this. And I'm gonna make it bigger. This is BBoss new. I downloaded this from a website. You know, it kind of goes well with this, but you don't necessarily have to do something like that either. Let me just select all first before we go forward, because I already know I want a centered alignment. This is something that you'll want to make sure you're also paying attention to. You don't have to do centered alignment. This is just something I thought would work well. So I'm going to go to my paragraph panel and choose center for my copy. That's under paragraph. Let me show you a few options that you can do here. Now the text, I would say body copy. I would keep this, and I'm going to make this Helvetica just to keep it simple. Actually, let's see. Helvetica. I would say probably, and it depends on your font too, because some fonts are bigger than others. Let me put this space out of here. I'm probably going to do like an 18 point in this. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to make this a little bit more bold. Now the issue with this is the how it's breaking. Right now it's just not breaking really well. You can see there's 2 hyphens. What you should really do is read through the copy out loud and see where the break should be. So sign up for this unique experience and join us as you paddle off into the sunset, enjoying relaxing scenery. So I probably would put a space after that because the next sentence is kind of different, and it says advanced reservations required, family adventure packages available. You can highlight, this could be a completely different area highlighted, maybe like a little seal, or you could keep it here. It's just kind of treated differently. I would put a period after this as well. So I would definitely put a space. If you're going to keep it underneath this body copy, put a space to separate it. Now up here, I probably would pull my copy box in a little bit so I don't have as much of a line length. So it's easier to read. Shorter the lines, the easier it is to read. I'm going to bump this word paddle down, just do a shift return, and just a better way of bumping that down. You could probably do 2 lines here too, completely up to you. Just looking at this, maybe I'll make my copy just a little bit bigger and keep this a little smaller. So I'm up to 22 for my copy, 22, and then this is 47, and this is 18. So I have hierarchical order here. And then, you know, maybe play around with this. Maybe you could do bold oblique, have a different, you know, emphasis on that. Be mindful of your leading. You don't want it to be tracked out too far. Right now mine's auto. Let's try 24. That's the spacing in between your lines of text. So I'm at 22 type point size at 28 leading. I'm going to spread this out just a little bit more too. You don't want it to be too far out or else it's hard to read. All right, like I said, the headline can be completely treated differently too. It doesn't have to be this, you know, one set of, you know, this one font. Let me copy this and I'll show you an idea of what you can do. I'm going to do a separate text box. Maybe you want to do something fancy here and it's a headline. So, you know, you could choose maybe a thicker, more fun-looking font that would go really well with the copy. Now, if you do this, make sure headline is close to the body copy so it reads together. I have a lot of students that'll have like the headline up here. And then, I mean, that's fine as long as you kind of align certain things and it makes sense. But usually you want to keep the headline with the body copy so that it reads, you know, together. The next thing is color consistency. You want to make sure you're unifying your colors. So maybe instead of like using black here, we could use the color in the logo. So I'm going to go to my color swatches. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, this is in InDesign, take your eyedropper tool and go ahead and sample your blue or sample your color within your logo, and go ahead and double click on your fill to add it to your swatches. Same thing with the red. Double click, add to the swatches, click OK. So it's in there. So now all you need to do is select your type and change it to color. I wouldn't necessarily change this to it just because, you know, to the red, just because it would be harder to read. But maybe all the blue is fine. And maybe adventure or sunset. Maybe that can be red. See how that looks. As long as it's readable. All right. Any questions about that? Okay, we still have this call out information. Sometimes it's nice to kind of pull this out a little bit differently and treat it a little bit differently. Keep it cohesive, but have a different emphasis on it because it is important information. I'm going to put it to the bottom so it's kind of more like call out information. And I'm going to use this same font, so Helvetica Bold, keep it consistent. And this can be probably not as big as the headline, but large in size. I'm going to center it. You can also do all caps, and I'll show you how to do that if you don't know how to do that very quickly. Here, let me pull up my character. Why isn't my character box pulling out here? So if you select your copy box and go up to the right-hand corner, you can choose all caps. And that changes it to all caps. All right, so you can see it's hard to read down here still, so we're gonna treat this a little differently here. I'm gonna take the rectangle tool, not the frame tool, the rectangle tool. And I'm gonna go ahead on my left side of my bleed, the right side of my bleed, draw out a thinner box. And this will be a specific color that's unifying with my brand. Object, bring to front with my type. Make sure it's centered in there. And then I'm going to make this white, just for contrast. See how that kind of pops now? And I'm going to bring this down so it aligns on my bottom margin, the very bottom margin right here. It's all about alignment. Now I could do blue too. It doesn't have to be red. I kind of like the red, but if I wanted a more subdued look, I could definitely do like the blue color. Okay, so that's all my information in there. Now really look at your layout, make sure it makes sense, make sure things right now, proximity of my headline with my body copy look good. I have enough white space. I have a lot of students that have no white space in between the logo and information, and it runs together. There's no breathing room, and especially for something like this, it should be, you know, breathable. You know what I mean? It shouldn't look all crammed. If it looks all crammed, it looks stressful and heavy, and it shouldn't look like that. It should be easy to read. It should have, you know, it should be easy to follow. So that's why we follow the rules of the principles of design. Now you don't have to have the logo at the very top. Whatever works for you. You can play around with the position of the logo. You can, like I said, you can shift everything around just to play around with it and how you like to place everything, and you know, see what works best. You can even bring in these photos if it looks right and it feels right, or you can keep it simple. You know, play around with the positioning of everything. This is kind of what we do as designers. You don't just place it in there and never really play with it, play around with it. You know, as designers, we should be kind of experimenting, making sure it makes sense for our poster and for our project. Now, the issue with this is the logo is hard to see. So there's some things that I wanted to show you before we wrap it up that you can play around with if you're having issues with the logo being hard to read, like for instance here. In InDesign, there's a really cool, you know, obviously you could do something like this. This is kind of an easy fix. Oops. We're kind of putting a solid color back there. Oops, done. But if that's not what you want, say that's like so heavy and you don't really like that, there's other ways that you can play around with the contrast. There's an option here called the gradient feather tool in InDesign. Play around with that, it's kind of fun. So what you would do is draw like just a regular rectangle, and I'm going to draw like kind of this area where it goes up into this image here. So it's kind of like all the way up to this guy's head. And we're going to make this white. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select that square. What you might want to do too, you might want to bring these forward. You want to bring these forward. So I just did a shift select of the logo, the banner, and the copy. And I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. That's just so that this isn't taking away from the contrast of these particular elements. If they were over top, you would see a screen of that. Okay, so with that selected, select your gradient feather tool, whoops, and then click, and it depends on what you have set here. If you have your white as your fill, you can select down here, just click right down at the bottom and pull this all the way up. You can hold down the shift key to keep it linear, and then you let go. And that's going to give you a nice feather, kind of a little feathered effect of that color that we applied there. Now you don't have to use white, it could be black, it could be blue, it could be the red, you know, play around with it. It doesn't have to be that specific color. But that's just something that you can play around with. And that could definitely help you. And I use this a lot on like magazine covers, especially because there's so much, yeah, there's so many like images and things that you have to work around. So that could definitely be something that you can use. Another thing that you might want to play around with, but I would suggest very sparingly, is the drop shadow effect in InDesign. So let's say you want to put like a little bit of a pop to this so it looks like it's popping off to the poster. You can select the image and go up to your object and effects and select drop shadow. Now, before you click OK, you can see these images. As long as you have preview selected, you can see your changes on the right-hand side take place. Right now, it's a really hard drop shadow. I would probably pull the distance in a little bit more. So I'm going to drop this down to 0.0625. And then the opacity, which is the darkness of it, I'm also going to pull this down and click OK. So it's a very subtle, and I'm going to zoom in here, look to it. Now, if you do that to that one, I would definitely do it to this one, just to keep it consistent. I think we had 55. Just something to think about. You can also add it to the logo, but you know, make sure it's subtle. You know, if that's something that you want to try, you can add it to the logo too. But I wouldn't make it really dark like that. I would keep it real tight in terms of how far it's spread out, and then give it a real subtle opacity. So that way it's not making it hard to read. It's just kind of giving that 3D look to it. And then save it. Any questions about that? Have fun with it too. I mean, there's a lot of information that I just went over, but have fun with it. Experiment, see what you can come up with. This is a poster. Think about, this is a poster to try to help people or try to woo people in to sign up for this. So you really want to make it inviting and exciting looking, not chaotic or real heavy. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so the next part of this before we wrap it up today, so we did pretty much all of this. Converted spot colors, okay. Now we're gonna package, we're gonna first package your file, and then we're gonna save a press quality PDF. I think it might make sense to do the PDF first, so let's do that. When you're ready to go and you're ready to submit this, go up to File. And I want to show you something. Remember how I told you to convert your images to CMYK? I did it to this one, I did it to this one, but I didn't do it to this one. So this one, I'll show you how to check for this. How to check your file to make sure it's ready to go for print. So I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to save it. And then after saving, I'm going to go File, Package. Or no, I'm sorry, we're saving out as a PDF first. So go up to File, Adobe PDF Presets. We're going to choose Press Quality. Now, press quality is different than high quality, so make sure you're choosing press quality. It's the resolution's a little different. Click Save. Yes, and then in here, I want you guys to pay attention to one thing, marks and bleeds. So here on the left-hand side here, we just want to make sure that the crop marks and bleed marks are showing. So go ahead and check those in marks and bleeds. And then you're going to choose this, select the bleed and slug, use document bleed settings. And that's it. Export. And it should make your PDF. Let me go find it. Here it is. Go ahead and open that PDF when you're done. Just make sure everything looks good. If anything looks kind of out of place or looks strange, that's when you can obviously fix things. You want to make sure your bleed and your crop marks are showing. So your first crop marks here are your bleed marks, and then your trim marks, and then your bleed marks are on the outside. So that's how you should see it. All right. Where is that poster? Right here. Okay, let me get rid of these for now so we're not confused. So this is the PDF that you just made. Okay, now you're going to go back to your InDesign document and you're going to package this. And this is what you kind of do to get this file ready for anyone who needs to work on your file, because it's going to include all the fonts, all the images, everything that's created in this file, so that somebody else on another computer can open it up, whether it be a printer or another designer, and they can actually go into your working file and not have fonts missing, because it'll try to sync up to the font. Say if you don't have this font and I didn't package this file, this is a font that I downloaded at a separate site. So you probably don't have this font on your computer. So if I just sent you my InDesign file without packaging it, if somebody were to open that, this would probably say, hey, where's this font? It's not on your computer, and then I'll replace it with another font. So when I open your file, if you just send me your InDesign file, I'm not going to see it the way that you see it. So this is why it's really important to package. So you're going to go up to File, Package, really easy. This is where I wanted to show you. Remember how I said you can check your colors here? So you can kind of see your images in here. When you go to links and images, you'll see that if there is an image that you didn't convert, it'll show it here. Remember that one, well, your logo will be in RGB. I wanted to explain this to a lot of people. It drives you insane. It's a ping image. You cannot convert it to a CMYK, and that's okay. As long as you're exporting it out and I know that you're converting to CMYK, you're good. So don't worry about this in your logo. Just as long as you're saving it out as a ping, you're good. What I do want you to be worried about is all your other images that you're placing in there, just so I know you're being mindful of that. Like for instance, this one I didn't change, should be changed to CMYK. So it should look like that. Just for purposes of getting this going forward here, I would have to go back and change that, but I won't because I just want to hurry this up. So I'm going to hit Package and Save. This box will pop up. It's going to say, name this file, so you can name it as such. Just make sure all these are checked. Copy fonts, linked graphics, updated links in package, everything is checked. The only thing that you don't have to check is the PDF, because we already made the PDF, so we're good. Hit Package. And it might take a little while here. All right, and here it is. It'll package it in a nice little blue folder, and if you double click on it, you'll be able to see this is the, I already have it open, this is why this is showing, but this is the original InDesign file, but in here are all the fonts I used. So if I didn't have your font, I can just go ahead and double click and upload it to my computer so it syncs up, and here are all the links. If I didn't have your image, it's gonna say, hey, image is missing. I can sync it up to your images here. Any questions about packaging? So this is the folder that I should see. What I would do is that PDF that you made, that press quality PDF, go ahead and throw it in there. Dump it in that folder. Dump it into this package folder. Just go ahead and drop it in. and you're gonna zip it. So if you're on a Mac, it's a little different on a PC. If you're on a Mac, just select it, go up to File, Compress, just like I showed you before. And there you go. This is the file that you'll submit. And this is about 12.6 megabytes. I would say if it's over 20, that's when you should be a little concerned that it's a little big. So just kind of pay attention to that so you won't have issues uploading it. So you'll submit the zipped. So right here is pretty much all that I just went over. Any questions about that? Like I said, I'll be here tomorrow, the same time. I'll just be kind of hanging out. So if you need extra help, share your screen, I'll be here. Oh. So, feel free to come in, and I'll post this recording as soon as I'm done here so you guys can review it if you need to and go forward. We actually don't have time for this. I'll just save that for next time. A lot of information. I didn't even take a break today, so hopefully you guys aren't overwhelmed. I know there's a lot of stuff to cover because we had 2 assignments, but I don't know. I hope I kind of clarified a lot of questions that you have. If not, let me know before we wrap it up here. If you guys are good, then be free on your way. Have a great day, and I'll be talking to you on the discussion boards. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Great to see you in today. You're welcome. You too. Thank you so much. Have a great day.